In this segment of From Print to Podcast, we're learning more about sustainability, local artistry, and entrepreneurial spirit. I'm excited to welcome Rachelle Walker, the owner of WyndRose Boutique, with us. WyndRose Boutique is not just a store, it's a celebration of fair trade principles, eco-conscious practices, and original art by local creators that you may know personally. Rachelle has built her business on the values of supporting local artists and offering custom solutions to her clients, while of course staying true to her commitment to fair trade. If you're passionate about sustainability and the creative community, you're in for a real treat today. Hi, Rachelle. Thank you for being here with us.
Hey, thank you so much, Liz. Thanks for having me.
So glad to have you here. And I want to jump right in because this is our October episode. And so actually I learned from you today that October is Fair Trade Month. And so I want to talk about what that means. What exactly is fair trade?
Yeah, that is a great question. And we find, often that many of our consumers don't really have a good grasp of what that means. And so that's why October is so great to highlight, for the entire month what that means. And fair trade is a way to support artisans, farmers, and the entire production process and consumer goods. What we mean by that is everyone we work with is promised fair wages, safe working conditions. We often work with women's co-ops, so it's women empowerment, microfinancing to not always, but usually marginalized communities and underdeveloped countries around the world.
And it seems so obvious that that's something that we should support and consider when we're shopping or really just sort of interacting with anybody in our community. But in thinking about why it's important to be eco-conscious, why do you feel that that's so important?
I think it's really important, not only as a business owner, but also, as we were kind of talking off pod a little bit earlier, is I am a mom and I have young kids, and what you bring into your home matters, no matter what that is, whether it's what you eat, wear, or sit in. So it's important, I think, in this day and age to know where your products come from. And even more important, not only are they built with organic materials, things that are safe to wear or eat, how are those people treated? How would you want to be treated? Would you feel the same way, if you understood kind of the working conditions in some of these factories and stuff that we see in these this throwaway economy, as we call it, these mass-produced products that come in, you unbox them quickly, slap them together. They may be affordable, which is, I know, a very important piece for so many families. But in general, a more sustainable economy, not only for you, but for the city, the country, and the world, really needs to be based more on these principles.
I love that. I hear so much about it's important to know what we put in our bodies, right? What we eat, the medications, things like that. But I hope that more people will understand that that's more than just food, right? It's more than just what we're putting in our bodies. It's what we're wearing, what we're putting on our walls, how we're integrating decor into our homes. That's a very interesting point that you're making about making sure that those folks are represented, and fair wages seem like such an obvious thing, right? Like, of course people are getting obvious, but we both know in this day and age that is certainly a battle that you're fighting pretty hard.
Oh yeah, it is. It's a battle we fight every day, and that's why it's also important when we work with the companies that are certified. It's not just a quote greenwashing where maybe a company, says, oh, we do the best we can. Oh, yes, we keep an eye on our supply chain. We talk with the companies. A lot of times you do need these outside parties or whatnot to be privy to that, because it passes through a lot of hands before it comes to a consumer. No matter what.
We think about that, right?
We don't, it's not always... especially when you're buying things from overseas or stuff like that, if it's not local and you can't keep your eye on every step of it. So it is important to see that, again, as I was saying, so it's not just a label or something. They truly live up to the practice.
And I like that you mentioned talking about, you mentioned so a lot of people might have this mass-produced item, whatever that might be. I'm guilty of doing that myself. Not after this conversation, obviously. But in thinking about when I go into WyndRose, I find, there's so much in your store that is just incredible. It's not just gifts or art, it's kitchenware and cookware and every, you carry really A to Z in your store.
We do. And that was, and that was important to me to really, I like to look at it more as a lifestyle brand, a lifestyle store. So we can carry all that. We do have a little section of corners for your kids. Again, as a mom, I wanted something unique that you can find here, but you knew was safe and good to use for your children. It is, you don't have to live your entire life, crazy crunchy green, but it's the little things you can do, like our dryer balls, our reusable wax paper to replace, saran wrap, the reusable straws, the dishcloths, little things like that make great gifts. I mean, I'm guilty of
I find
stocking stuffers every year.
every holiday I'm in your store like, oh my God, here's like 14,000 things I want to buy from my friends
exactly.
and family.
And those are just very small changes that take, such little time, but you realize makes a difference when it piles up.
And I love that you mentioned something like dryer balls because,
Yes.
again, I'm thinking about what we put in our body as far as food. I'm thinking about the clothes that I'm wearing. But I love that you're thinking about the small pieces, too, throughout the home that will sort of make a big difference when it all adds up.
It does. And, we could go on like a 4-hour podcast. Like
About dryer balls, obviously.
Exactly. Like jumping on a soapbox here of, have you seen like your laundry detergents and things? But, what is chemically in dryer sheets and then will come off on your clothes is, a whole separate topic. So just an example of what we carry and other, companies and things that start to carry are just these all natural wool dryer balls. Ours happen to be adorable and handmade in Nepal. So you have your ladybug, your kitty cats, your things that like my toddlers find hilarious.
Yeah.
So it makes it kind of fun. And you leave 3 or 4 of those just in your dryer all the time. It's not a one-time use. They'll go for 1,000 washes.
Cool.
Easy peasy.
I also love that you pointed out how fun they are.
Yes.
So that way you're teaching your children, this is sort of how
Laundry's
we think we
fun.
should operate. Right.
Yeah.
A, laundry's fun, sure. But B, that, this is a sustainability issue that they're learning about without realizing it, which is really nice.
Yeah, that is true. That's a really good point. It's an easy thing to pass on to a next generation. And they just grow up knowing like, oh, we use these products instead of throwaways.
Right.
And then it takes over from there.
So let's talk about your store because it's amazing and I love it. And you can literally spend hours in there. And we're going to talk about like how you find custom products. You were literally just in Atlanta looking for items because, again, going back to what we were just talking about, I'm going to find stuff in your store that's not mass produced, which means nobody else has it. And that's... I'm sort of funny that way. I want my stuff to be interesting and unique, and I don't necessarily want everyone else to have it. That's,
No, I completely understand that. It's the kind of, customer and everything that we are definitely here for. We take sourcing the unique, interesting, wild, sometimes creepy, very seriously. People often ask, how I got into this, where do I find my products? And, that's kind of been a little bit of a lifelong thing. I studied a mixture of design and sustainability in college, worked in nonprofits up in the DC area. So I've kind of webbed in and out of this world for a little while. A lot of them are contacts I made even back then, 10 years ago, or traveling around the world. We have a jewelry line from a women's co-op in Africa I met from a nonprofit, started bringing her products to the US when I decided to open the store. So that's what we do. We do some of the traditional markets like almost any retailer does, the Atlantas, the New Yorks. But I always have that set of guidelines and principles. I can't walk into any vendor and say, that's cute, I think it'll sell, let's go for it. Because I don't want to offer that, even if it might be easy and cute and profitable. It's not what we're here to do. It's not just to be like any other store you could buy from.
Which I love that because that means that you're, you gotta go see your store.
No,
okay, so going back to my original question, let's talk about WyndRose because I'm obsessed. But what inspired you to start it? Again, you were talking about a little bit about your background, which did you ever see yourself being here in this moment 10 years ago, for example?
It's funny. I mean, in a way, maybe yes and no. Entrepreneur and business is in my blood. Both my parents started and, run their own businesses, still to this day. So I think in some way doing something of my own was always there. What form it would take, I don't know. I've worked retail on and off for a million years, from the side job to help with college to, working some in the mass stores as a first job, all that kind of stuff. And then again, weaving with nonprofit experience and just personal travels, complete other, podcast sidebar. My husband and I spent 11 months, traveling to 30 some countries one year, like just traveled the world.
Well, that negates my question of have you traveled the world? Because that's like way more than I was expecting.
Yeah. So, these are all ideas that came back to me. And I wanted to bring all that together. I wanted to create somewhere that, wasn't, again, maybe just, a retail store or just my own business, but it's a gathering place for creative products, creative and beautiful people, open creative ideas, and just somewhere where you could blend all that together, from the tiny dryer ball to, the gorgeous pieces of art that we carry. It really spans the distance. And so moving back to the Roanoke area, in 2020, and the opportunity was just sort of there. You know, it was a crazy time for so many people. I was trying to decide, what do I do next? This beautiful location was available. And I said, if not now, you know, when? So I was like, let me bring it all together.
Yeah,
and,
it feels
and see.
pretty like meant to be, right? Like all your
a way,
experience
yeah.
and travels and passions have really kind of culminated in WyndRose. Like, I think that's really beautiful.
That's how I like to look at it, or, fingers crossed for the future that it was meant to be.
Yeah. So obviously, you pick downtown, this beautiful space, and it's easy to find. It's on the corner. You've got a couple of entrances and exits to make it easy for shoppers. But why WyndRose? Why this particular name?
Yeah. So I get that question a lot. Because it is pretty unique. And again, when all this was an idea in my brain, I was sketching things out. I was really drawn. Our logo is kind of based off, like a compass, compass rose, that kind of thing. I wanted a way to touch on the international aspect, the travel aspect of everything we were bringing together. As everyone does, Google doom scroll. I was like, let me try out this, let me try out that. I'm still always being drawn to the idea of a compass rose. Long story short, I learned a WyndRose in the traditional spelling predates a compass rose as a navigational tool for ships and things based off wind patterns, kind of before we sat down and came up with a compass rose. And then I just thought, well, that's beautiful. And to make it boutique-y and bougie, we threw in a Y.
I mean, well,
put it together.
You're talking to quite a bougie person, so I very much appreciate that.
Yeah, I like to joke. I'm like, then we made it bougie. So there you go.
I love it. That's perfect. So we're talking about, you've traveled around the world. You're buying all these amazing products from all over the world again. But let's talk about bringing it home, because I love that you're also featuring local artists who are creating and really working hard to promote their community spirit. And so, you're known for showcasing local artists, featuring all original art. I always see your Instagram and I'm like dying over some of the pieces of art. There was one of, I think it was an ostrich that I was just so...
Gosh, he was gorgeous.
Oh,
he
my
sold
gosh.
so fast.
I bet
Beautiful.
he did. But, anyway, so now that I'm jealous of that person. But how do you go about selecting these artists that you're featuring in your store?
That is a great question. And we are always, shameless plug, we are always on the lookout for, new artists or emerging talents. So I will attend festivals, art shows, different gatherings. Now that we're a little bit more established, our current artists are always reaching out to other artists, or, people seek us out now, which feels amazing, after 3 years. But several things that we look for, again, of course, is we keep it right here, local, regional, right here in this area. That was very important to me. We don't do the, again, mass-produced artwork. And, so from there, we're looking for originality, something different, something that will obviously resonate with our customers. But I really like to showcase sometimes emerging artists who, we have some fantastic galleries and things in the area, and this area is thriving with artists. But I like to give people a platform that maybe haven't been in a larger store before, or haven't been in a gallery before. Maybe they're young, maybe their style is a little bit different. It's some mixed medias. It's not your traditional, just, oils and things and, like that. So I look for a little bit of the unseen, again, maybe weird, creative, a little bit different. And I always tell people, hey, we're willing to try it.
Yeah.
You create it. I'll try it. If it doesn't work, we'll switch it up and try something new.
You must really have fun during the sidewalk art show. You just step outside your door and then there's 100 artists ready to get their stuff in your door.
That's a great weekend for us because it gives us a chance to highlight our artists again, while just, literally stepping outside and getting to walk around the streets.
3 feet away.
I always find new artists. My husband's like, it's bad business practice to bring home so much art. Sell it, stop it. And I'm like, okay, that's fair.
And I swear, that was my next question. I was like, so how do you not buy all of it yourself to take home?
So hard. And so many of the artists we featured, I have at least a few personal pieces in my house because I cannot help it.
I mean,
I can't help myself. I love a good piece of art.
You're the owner and that's your right.
Hard.
So.
Yeah. I'm like, it's so hard. I also like to make it a personal goal that I'm like, if I'm showing your pieces and I love your pieces for my store, like I personally want to support you and I want to maybe try to have a piece of almost all of our artists.
I think that's awesome. And so kind of putting you on the spot here, but I'm curious if you can think about some of the artists off the top of your head that you've really loved or that you currently carry that are just really doing great work.
Yeah. So Sarah Parcell.
Amazing.
I know. She's probably one of our most well-known artists. Just because, she's still young and upcoming, but she's really starting to get some amazing traction, does some fantastic shows. She is personally, we have kids about the same age. So personally, she's become a good friend. Has done some custom work for me. I can't lie.
She recreated an iconic cover for us. And
That's
it's
right.
like one of my favorite things.
I saw that. It's stunning. Yeah,
Currently in our art exhibit at the 4th floor of Municipal Building. So
yeah.
just FYI.
Yeah. She's fantastic. I mean, I love Amanda Marco's work. It's so different, but it's modern. She works in cold wax. She also will do custom pieces. We've helped commission stuff for her. A couple other pieces I own from Shariah Dottie. We just sold one of her pieces out of the window the other day. I think the way she reinvents herself so often is really cool.
And it's not necessarily just art that goes on your walls, right? Like this is all kinds of art that can be considered for your home, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We carry plenty of tabletop as well. We've got some local ceramists that we work with. I've got kind of a one-of-a-kind Cyclops-looking vase piece right now. Maybe good for spooky season.
It's October.
It is a Cyclops. I personally love his little ugliness. I hope somebody else out there will too.
Sometimes it's so ugly, it's adorable.
That's what I love to say. And but yeah, so we've got that. We use one of our artists who does both wall pieces, Anjali Boston. She also does jewelry. And so all of her jewelry is from recycled pieces. So she'll literally take t-shirt threads and thread them into a new necklace or these cork earrings and things. So you could wear, I like to say, we have wearable art that you walk out the door with.
Sustainability too.
Exactly.
I love it, man. Everything's full circle in your place. And so another thing that you offer is custom ordering, which I think this is fascinating because you're already, finding all these amazing pieces. How does that even start, right? Like, how do you source specific items? Like, does a customer come to you and say, I'm thinking about XYZ, and you kind of just keep that in the back of your mind as you're looking for things? Or like, how does that work?
Yeah, that is one way we do it. We have customers and clients that we've worked with now who might be like, hey, I'm sort of redoing this room, or, I have this shelf. I can't find this exact right piece. So we'll work with them. I tell everybody, again, with the ceramics or arts or anything like that, I'm like, if you're drawn to a style, but we don't see it here, I'm like, let me know. Let's stay in touch. We'll go back and forth and I'll, help you source it and commission it. A couple of our pieces that do really well are our metal recycled oil drum sculptures that people love. Those things do so great for us. They, even repeat animals or things. They always come in looking different because it's whatever was around at the time that they were able to create these of. So that's become a favorite giftable item. People reach out and say, do you have this style one, this height one, maybe one in this animal? So we work with that. And we have a couple high-end furniture lines that, we have vetted and, work again with that like sustainability factor from the woods, the fabrics, everything like that. And they'll do custom ordering. So we get your fabric samples, your rug samples, sit down, to finish out a room for you.
You're like part interior decorator. Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's a total like side hobby that I just absolutely love to do. But yeah, I'm like, you trust me enough. Abigail, my manager, and I, who I have to give a shout out to because literally the store probably would have already closed by now, if not for her. She keeps me sane. And like keeps me on track. But yeah, trust us, give us a chance to look at your corner and say, okay, we know you need XYZ size or color or something. Let's see what we can do here for you.
That's a great idea. So I love the idea of people bringing in pictures of their space or their room or whatever it is, because that's obviously incredibly helpful for you to like picture what they're looking for.
Definitely.
Man, that's so cool. Any example of maybe a very memorable custom item you've done? Again, kind of putting you on the spot. But if anything pops to your head.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We have this these gourd baskets that I'm personally obsessed with. Anyone who's shopped fairly regularly will probably hear me. I've got to come up with a new line. I'm like, I think these are my favorite products in the store, but that still holds true for the most part. Like, I really think they are. And they come from a tabletop to, this extra large size. They're called garlic gourds because they kind of take on the shape of the garlic. But they're made of Isla palm, which is a type of palm leaf found around Madagascar and southern Africa. And so they're hand woven into these gourds. And we have procured these in natural, whitewashed or like a black finish. And I've shipped them out to customers in Arizona and California, or, two that come to mind for, we're working through email and text with this, this wonderful client out in Arizona. And she's sending me this like topper, I'm on a podcast, but I'm flailing my arms around trying to explain this like upper shelf level.
We got the YouTube video. It's okay.
Okay, good. Like definitely make sure to use this clip. and so we helped her find, that specific piece to sit up above a mantle in the ceiling of her home, out in Arizona. But with modern technology and working with it, we could do it and get it to her.
I think you just made an excellent point, though, because yes, you're catering to the Roanoke community, you're bringing in local art, but you are also available anywhere in the world, apparently.
Yeah.
But really across the nation. I mean, if you decide you need to, leave Roanoke for whatever reason, and you're like, oh, man, I got to call up Rachelle. She's got the greatest product. You can do that.
You can.
I love the future.
All of our stuff. I know. It is amazing. All of our stuff, our products, we are online. Again, shameless plug. We have free local pickup. So if you see something online, grab it. Come get it when you can.
Fantastic.
For our larger pieces, we do allow you to take home and try. Make sure it works nice for a day or two. Then we'll worry about, closing the sale. Not a problem. My husband is usually always more than happy to show up in our family pickup truck to deliver a piece. It's really a small family business.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. We appreciate that.
No, he's been roped into more things. With me starting this little store. And then, we have shipped all over the country, 1 or 2 overseas, actually. I always love reaching out saying if it's not... because we get a lot of repeat customers from travelers, where we are located downtown is so great with Hotel Roanoke, Liberty Trust, all those, so those are great. So some of our, best then shipping things have been people who have shopped with us in the store and then come back later. But yeah, so we're available to do that online, all the things.
I love that so much. Well, for the record, if you get anything Fox-like in, that's mine. I want it.
Ooh, perfect.
Okay,
we do. I have an artist in mind who you would love.
Because I'm obsessed. So anyway. So we're talking about, let's go back to fair trade for just a moment.
Yeah.
Because, we've talked about your store. We've talked about what you've been doing. Let's talk about a little bit about the future, because this is obviously an important topic. It's not going to go away. And so I'm curious about how you might see the future of fair trade, eco-conscious practices. How might those evolve specifically in the retail industry?
That is a really great question, because I will be honest, I think retail is in an interesting spot right now.
Sure.
I know, a lot of retailers, like myself, after 2020 election years, blah, 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 things up and down, and the landscape is changing. And economically wise, people need to be price conscious, and we're very aware of that, but not to a point that we want to sacrifice our values. I think the sustainability needs to grow in a way it can still be better capitalized on, so pricing can come down. There is something I just personally have to recognize, because so many of ours are one-offs, and that's going to come at a different price point, and that's just something we're fine with. But I think the industry in general has to be able to grow with that. We need... I said earlier in the show that the certifications things are helpful, and I find that they are, but like anything can also be a little too closed-doored. I think that needs to open up. One of the reasons I say we're an eco-conscious boutique that carries fair trade and things is I did not want to limit ourselves to only being a fair trade certified store, because there are so many brands and people and co-ops, especially in some of these marginalized countries, that do all of these things, that, work with their dead stock, work with their hands, use their recycled materials, practice these pillars, but are unable or unwilling to go through a multiple year certification process that does cost money, comes with all the things, and they're just not able to do that. But I still want to support them with my purchasing power and our practices. So I think that needs to be more inclusive, in the long run, rather than having 1 or 2 fair trade boards who will continue to drive and say, well, this is what counts as fair trade and sustainable. There's room for everybody at the table, as they say.
And you were just at a show, so it might be different because you're looking at products and items. But, you're still part of that community that is discussing these things. And so you're probably learning a ton of information that, I assume that changes every day, honestly, or evolves every day, really, not changes.
Yeah, it does. And there are some great on top of like the buying shows, there are, the annual conferences and things like that I do make a point to attend to, that might be, again, a little different than, I guess, a traditional retail store, because I like to stay more in touch with what's happening in the practices. One of the nonprofits I worked for happened to be in chocolate and cocoa and that sustainability chain. So it's just something that I have a personal interest of kind of keeping a breath with, even though, we carry a little chocolate, but we're not a chocolate company,
Right. Right.
But whatever you typically see start to ripple through those commodities are coming to home goods, are coming to fashion, are coming to those industries. That's usually where we see it start.
Yeah.
So I always like to kind of see what's coming down the pipe.
That's interesting. Cocoa and chocolates. That's one I'm like, I really love it and I want to do right by it, but I also don't want it to go away in 10 years.
Yes.
Because I hear that a lot and it frightens me because I'm, chocoholic. So
Yeah. That one just, again, is like a whole separate podcast sidebar.
Yeah, I know. We'll say that for later.
I know. We'll sit down
and
talk chocolate one day, which would be great.
But yeah.
But yeah, that's one. And yeah, again, just the longevity of this. I mean, I've seen it in eco fashion. And I will speak bluntly that we've lost 3 or 4 vendors this year alone that are smaller shops that are just like, it's not there for us anymore, and have closed up after 4 or 5 years. So then resourcing those products does become hard. It's a challenge. And I hate to see those go, but sometimes that's working with these small family companies.
Right. So lastly, but not leastly, of course, our little bonus question for everybody. I want to give a shout out to your favorite of the favorites. So, you have 3 small kids. We were talking about that earlier, and they're babies.
They're babies.
They're little
Lord
babes.
Help me, babies.
So with your playing, eating the region, obviously you got them at the forefront of your mind. Where are you going?
Yes. So I have to give a shout out to my favorite neighborhood eatery, the Treehouse Tavern.
Woo-hoo.
Up on Bent Mountain.
Yes. Our cover from last November, December, because I bet that patio is
fantastic.
The perfect place for the kids.
And they are so family friendly. The owners also have 3 kids. Their daughter's close to my daughter's age. And my kids go in there and just run amok like it's their home. We go there so often, and it's so comfortable that I get to sit down and have a meal because the kids are running around.
I love that,
and it's
because
all welcome.
Do you know,
so nice.
Young moms, they don't get to eat.
No,
their pizza's never warm.
Never. We never get to eat. We're balancing a kid, or sometimes, unfortunately, awkward stare or something because you're trying to make dinner happen.
Right.
And it just feels so comfortable there. So I have to give them a shout out. Bent Mountain is not that scary. We're still part of Roanoke County. Drive to the top. It'll be worth it. I promise.
It's not that far.
It's really not that far, guys. So definitely that one. We are huge suckers for the lake as like a thing to go do. We love going down there. My kids, they love to fish. They
Little tadpoles, they swim in already.
Yes, oh my gosh. And my daughter's a fish at 2.5. She would just swim.
Nice.
Like she loves it. And I have to give a little shout out to some of the fun things that we love to do in downtown. When they come run amok in mommy's store and then love to, run across the street to the Science Museum, the Kids Square. Honestly, they just love going into the lobby and looking at the fish in the fish tank.
Me too.
They're like, can we go see the fish? And I'm like, absolutely.
Good for all ages, trust me.
So, huge shout out in general to the whole Science, museum, between Kids Square and the Pinball Museum and everything they have in the building. They love.
You've got a lot at your fingertip being right there on the corner.
It is. You know what? It's nice. We can find just about anything we need to downtown.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's fantastic. And of course, we got to have you back because I want to talk about chocolate cocoa. I want to talk about more sustainability. I find myself buying secondhand all the time.
Yes,
these
that is
days.
A fantastic way to do so.
I can't tell you the last time I bought something new off the rack,
That's
truly.
Awesome. Yeah.
But it's because I think about the back of my head, sustainability. In part of that, also, I just really love clothes. And so the secondhand thing is easier to have more of them.
Yeah, fair.
You should see my shoe closet. It's silly. But anyway, I think it is so important. It's something that I feel like we've heard about a lot over recent years, but it's just become more important. So you're really sort of at the forefront leading this charge.
I hope so. That's how I like to view it. I think a lot of our customers and clients like to, view it that way. And I now hope more viewers and listeners will see it that way.
Well, I would think so. So again, October is Fair Trade Month. Please go support WyndRose. Anybody in here who's doing sustainability is somebody that, we want to support. And so thank you for sharing more about this. Thank you for sharing your insights, the story behind WyndRose Boutique. It was so great to have you. I can't wait to talk more. It's going to be a lot. But again, thank you for your time. Your dedication to sustainability and local artistry is super inspiring. I'm sure that you're going to have artists coming out of the woodwork, if they're not already, to see what they can do to help you.
Reach out online, email our contact info, or pop in. Not a problem.
I love that. And thank you for supporting them. It's so important to support our community. And of course, our dollars go to you, and those dollars are going right back out to our local community.
100%.
And the people who, quite frankly, need those fair wages and deserve them because they're working so hard. So really, really inspiring stuff. Listeners, don't miss out on supporting local by visiting WyndRose Boutique and seeing all the beautiful products in person at 23 Salem Avenue Southeast in downtown Roanoke. It's on the corner. You can't miss it. It's the cutest little spot. You can also explore her beautiful collection of handmade and eco-friendly goods online at WyndRoseBoutique.com. That's WYNDROSE Boutique.com. Thanks again for joining us on this episode of From Print to Podcast. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please don't forget to subscribe for every episode. Stay tuned for more engaging stories and insightful interviews, and we'll chat again soon on From Print to Podcast.